Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream tonight when we're having our sneak peek early access into the latest DLC, the Thames Valley Lines, that are supposed to be released tomorrow. So, the latest stuff that we can find in Trains and World, and I want to take the opportunity to discuss at this point already. One of the new features in this DLC are the token systems that have not been part of any Trains and World route so far. We had a bit something similar in the Blackpool branches, even though we did not see that much of it, but now we have two new versions and we actually can touch and see a token. Let's jump into it, and I thought I want to run one service on each of the branches, right? We have the Henley Branch, and we have the Windsor Branch, and we have the Marlow Branch. And maybe let's start with the Windsor Branch, because it is, as you can see, the shortest one. So let's just pick one service and run it Slough, Windsor and Eton. I think this was one with enough sunlight so that we can actually see the route. Like so many releases recently, this is a debut release, and well, yeah, we're starting early. 6:08 to Whiskey 03, Slough, Windsor in Eton Central. It's only this one stop, and we're starting actually with a 166. Not always it is a 166, sometimes it is a 165. And let's get started. You can already see one downside of the DLC is that those markers are sometimes a bit overly lit. Especially the blue ones. Safety systems. Cannot really see that something is changing, but actually there is a change. Cap lights. We can now open the window on the 165 that has been modified, not on the 166 as it seems. Yeah, we need some lights, daylights, and then our train. We've got the bomb colored first group DLC. It says it's set in the beginning we get a 166, but we get a 165. Akura, moin, let's go, and Sir Digby, hey Tiger, hey to you. Nice to have you guys on the stream. Couldn't catch you on Sunday. Doesn't matter. Now you're here. Now we're talking Thames Valley lines, and I actually have to say there are a lot of beautiful things in this DLC. Not only the Thames Valley bus, but especially when we run from Maidenhead to Marlow, we will see how beautiful the autumn colors look. Almost as if Bob Ross came back from the dead. Not to haunt us, but to give us the beautiful colors of the British autumn landscape. Let's close our doors. We're starting from this bay platform at Slough. And taking our diesel multiple unit towards Windsor Castle. You can see a lot of effort has gone into providing road signs that actually make sense, not only with some token destinations, but with real destinations. This was the road when in the official release stream they found out that the cars are running on the wrong side of the road. So if you found that weird, this has already been detected. Maybe it's gonna be fixed at some point in time. Yeah. See, the car park is really full, giving the impression of a car park with cars in it. There's a little siding where we sometimes can park our train. And we have a rear clear marker that tells us that with a 4-car train at any rate, we are out of the 15 limit and can accelerate to 40 and then later to 50. One feature of this route are the birds that are sitting around and that start flying when you get closer with your train. That's actually quite cool if you don't look too close at them. Sometimes it feels a bit like Groundhog Day if the birds are always starting when you're passing there with your train, but all in all it is a really beautiful feature. Announced without a bang. And now we're closing in to Eton School and we can't see it because of the fog. Windsor Castle. The 35. Probably a bit late. Across the bridge, again a couple of birds starting. You find all kinds of vehicles on the water, all kinds of vessels, rowing boats, where you can actually hear the coaxing the rowers, and motorboats. See this carnival here. This plane. And here's Windsor Castle coming in. Now also in the view in the cab. That started. Even though we are in a 15 limit, we always have to slow down for those TPWS Moogate protection thingies. Every time we're running closer to a buffer block, they typically stop us for 8 or 10 miles. Oops, that was a bit much. And this is our only stop on this line, the Windsor line. The other day we found a weird bug that somehow correlates with moving cameras and the animations that are used. Here's a guy taking a picture without a camera, but that is not the problem in my opinion. Here this guy with his eyes, look what his eyes are doing. And we are closing in. It's weird, right? I wonder how this happens. Can make his eyeballs pop out. He's an alien, I'm quite sure. Talking on the phone and the eyes are popping. Horror. Well, that was that with the popping eyes. And the Windsor Branch. Quite busy here. Almost no chance to get back to your train. Closing the doors so that we can hop to the next route. It's not a bug, it's a feature, this Sir Digby. Yeah. I wonder. But this actually shows interesting things about how those character models are built. The three branch lines are not interconnected with each other. You can use route hopping to get from one to the other, or obviously pick the services. Now we're going to the longest branch line, the Marlow line from Maidenhead. Debatably, in my opinion, the nicest one, and I pick a service where we actually run through Maidenhead to Marlow. You can see we're starting in the south, Maidenhead, where the yellow marker is, and then we're going 3 stations to Bourne End. And in Bourne End, we actually have to turn around to get to Marlow, or is the green bubble on the top left here on the road diagram. In former times, this branch line actually went further north, beyond Bourne End, up to Wickham on the Chiltern main line. But this does not connect anymore nowadays. This has been removed. Apparently it's quite a nice walk that you can make from Bourne End to Wickham, where the railway tracks were underneath the old bridges and so on. The pictures that you can find in the internet about this, they are looking really nice. And now Maidenhead to Marlow, and I will start showing you the stuff about the tokens, because We have two different token systems, one from Maidenhead to Bourne End, and another one, well, if you want to call a staff, train staff, a token system from Bourne End to Marlow. I'm really looking forward to this lovely little extension to Great Western Railway, I must say, says Akura. Yeah, it is a beautiful one. With the lighting here, again, we have some trouble. And excuse me, I want a different train. I have to go back. I want the GWR train. I don't want the first group magenta blue train, so I have to start it again. Well, if I get it the second time, then I will accept it, but I would prefer the decently colored dark green Great Western Railway livery. Maybe I just pick it from the timetable and not from the journey mode. You should end up with the same service anyway. Let's have that one, and it is called. Oh, I did not put up my markers yet. Why did nobody remind me? We are fiddling about with the Thames Valley branches. They are Thames Valley lines, not branches. Thames Valley lines. What happens if you don't pay attention when you prepare your stream? And the service, I hope that is the correct one. 2 Bravo 44 Maidenhead to Marlow. 2 Bravo 44 Maidenhead to Marlow. It is. And I can start it in July, but I wanted to do it in October because I wanted to see the October autumn colors. I hope I got it right now. And I can turn on my disclaimer. As you all know, I got this DLC for free from DTG as an ambassador, and so you know that. Here is our Great Western Railway livery. Wonderful. We can release the doors. We can open the cab window here. Here we have better working lights for isolating the safety systems, day, and let's get a token. And to get the token, since we are in a no signaler token area, we have no signaler to give us the token. We have to go to this hut. And we find this token machine. It's a Tire and Company, not a Tiger and Company, but a Tire and Company machine with the tokens. And typically you find here a signaler telephone. You have to ask the signaler, can I get a token? And then the signaler says, yes, grab your token, and then you get a token. And you take this token with you, put it in a pouch and in your train, and now that you have the token, you have the authority to run this line. Nobody else can run this line now because the machines are built in a way that they only give out 1 token. No more, no less. We will get to this in the presentation later. Don't confuse the open door and close door buttons with the engine stop and engine start buttons. Otherwise you're always killing your engine when you want to release the doors. So again, the fact that I grabbed the token is, as far as I can see, only role play. The dispatcher in the game would allow you to go anyway. Token or not. We have a guard on board. You can see the road hopper thingies for hopping to the Great Western Railway. And yeah, autumn was almost my favorite season in Trains in World, and now it has even improved a bit more with more colors. You can see those reds that we haven't seen before. And the foliage is also masterfully placed here, especially on this first leg between Maidenhead and Furze Platt. I think this is a beautiful wilderness you crawl through. Still in the 15 limit. The tracks seem a little bit overgrown. At some point they look a bit overgrown, yes. But all in all, I think this really gives you the impression of an unused or little used branch line. Look how the trees are arching over the tracks, coming in from the sides with the flowers underneath. I really love this part here. And now we can accelerate a bit because we are now in the 50 part. One thing that you will realize when running this line is that there are no signals. This is because there are no track circuits, there are no axle counters. There's actually no way to control the signals, and there is no signaler to control them manually. We find AWS magnets though, here to warn us that we are approaching. What does this sign tell us? We are approaching a locally secured level crossing. It's this kind of level crossing where you have to check the signal. If it is flashing white, then you can pass it, then the barriers are down, and if it is not flashing white, you have to stop. It's a bit like the BU signals in Germany, and we've known this from the West Somerset Railway. Here you can see it flashing white, we can pass, but at the same time it is limiting us to 10 miles. Until the tip of our train has occupied the level crossing. The thing with the tip of the train still does not work. Train has to clear the level crossing completely for the in-game limit to rise again. But if you want to play it without the scoring system noticing that you are doing everything according to the book, then you can already start accelerating after the tip of your train is occupied.
Great Western Railway service to Barnet, calling at Cookham.
He's missing his phone. The grass in the ballast is annoying you. Oh, I can say I can live with that. Also here, no starter signal. In Furze Platt.
This is a Great Western Railway service to
Cookham is the next stop. But you can see a lot on the unidirectional line are those signs. This is not a sign marking the border to Scotland, it is a sign telling you that the AWS alarm that you just heard is cancelled and you don't need to obey it. That this AWS magnet is actually for the opposite direction. Vidmax says there's plenty of grass on the tracks there in real life too. I just checked Google Street View from that crossing. Alright, that's nice to hear. It's not annoying but seems a bit off if there's trains running at least once per hour. Yeah, I guess the grass is resilient enough for that. Another bird flying across. Here a cancellation indicator from the opposite side. Means this AWS magnet is actually for us. We're approaching another level crossing of the locally controlled or secured kind. But this is behind the platform if I remember correctly. And Vidmax, by the way, thank you for your first appearance on the chat. Again, now flashing white, that means the level crossing is secured. Might be a bit prematurely when we're still stopping here at the platform. Might be annoying for the cars, they could easily pass while we are stopping at the platform. Here's a stop marker to the left. The black sign with the S on it. Now we have a stop board here, wait for the white light and whistle before proceeding. So I guess we have to wait for the white light and then whistle. We don't have to wait for the whistle. Whistling is what we have to do ourselves. This guy looks cool. Happy to catch the streams as with Max. I've been subscribed on YouTube for months but never caught you live on Twitch. Super, thank you so much. Alright, stopping board. What do we have to do? We have to wait for the white light. White light is already there. And then we have to whistle before we proceed. So in case anyone tried to sneak around the barriers here. Next one is already Bourne End. And then you will see something that looks like signals, and probably the first thing that we see actually is a signal. The other thingies that look like signals, well, it's debatable whether they are signals, but they are not the typical color light signals, but points indicators. What the difference is, we will get to that in the presentation. Just so that you know what you have to look for or look out for. Now we're getting the warning that we have to slow down to 15. Well, that is quite early, the smorgasbord here. We still can go quite a distance before we actually have to slow down, so for the moment I guess it's okay to just coast. Now the bird's starting. Oh no, did I have connection problems again? That will be too annoying.
We are now approaching Bourne End. Please mind the gap between the train and the platform, and take care when stepping down from the train.
Enjoying the river with all kinds of boats. And here we're going to D, down. Did not pay attention because I was looking at the river, but we will get to this earlier. Sending us to D down is quite spectacular actually, and only due to the fact that we are going on towards Marlow. This is why we have to go to this side, whereas this rail tour is occupying the up platform 2, number 2. Got to make sure that we don't get stopped by the TPWS. So, now we're here, we're unlocking the doors, but to go on to Marlow we have to change sides, or to ends, change ends, so we can put the reverser into off, get the headlights to tail, the lovely Class 37, yes. He is doing the rail tour next to us. Cutting this or shutting this cap down. And then we can walk to the other side. With the train and go on, but we can't do that so easily. We, or respectively the guard actually, have to obtain token or staff before proceeding, and we cannot just pick what we want. The token is for getting back to Maidenhead, the staff is for going to Marlow. At the moment, if you remember from the beginning of our trip, we picked up a token, and the token said Maidenhead to Bourne End. So how do we get the staff that allows us to take possession of the line to Marlow. Another hut, another token machine, and you can see there is one token missing because we got the token for the line Maidenhead to Bourne End at Maidenhead. So those machines are not giving out another one. Actually, the rail tour is not allowed to leave because we are still bogarting this token. Here is our staff, Bourne End to Marlow. And how is this thing now built to change the token for the staff? With this ground frame panel, we can switch this switch here to A, so that it no longer points towards Maidenhead but towards Marlow. And then we can lock our train that is sitting here at the moment onto the Bourne End to Marlow line, where the other line is free, for example for the rail 2 to go home to Maidenhead. And how can we switch it now? At the moment we cannot switch here anything. At the moment it is switched to Marlow, but it's not correct because we came in. It should actually have the white light here for Maidenhead, so that we can switch it for Marlow. And if you look at the points of the points, it is already switched to Marlow, but this is because the in-game dispatcher switches us without regard of our token and stuff. Actually, it should be still switched to Maidenhead because this is where we came in from, this line here. But what we do in this case, we put in our token here so that the machine knows we have possession of the line with our token. And then we cancel the route and switch the route to Marlow. Then those switches are switched to Marlow. We take out the token again. Now it is locked. Now those points cannot be switched anymore. And then we can take our staff. But before we take the staff, we return the token to the token machine. Because if we hold on to the token, nobody, not even the rail tour driver, can go back to Maidenhead. Now the token is back, and now the driver of the rail tour can pick up another token from a machine that is actually on his end of the platform. I will show you. This causes some delay, but is necessary for educational purposes. The buffer block here is not missing. There is actually none for whatever reason. And here is an auxiliary machine. Well, the driver for the rail tour can pick up a new token that allows him to go back to Maidenhead. So Digby asked, but how someone playing first route would know about this tokening if not watching this educational material? Well, the first thing is they don't need to know because the dispatcher does not care about it. You can totally drive the route normally without bothering about the token and the stuff. And the second thing is there is a scenario that leads you. See, now he picked up a token and he's going to Maidenhead, but this is probably only a coincidence. There is a scenario that leads you through this token and staff exchange and tells you about it. So now we returned our token. We have given up possession of this line, what we only could do because we locked our train into the line to Marlow, and now we can pick up the staff, and now we have the authority to use this line and take this train to Marlow. Setting up this cab. Safety systems. Yeah. And now this points indicator here tells us that the points are switched to probably the branch line B that takes us over towards Marlow. We still can't go. We have the stop thing, and now we have the staff, and now we can pass this stop board. This is unusual that you have a quotation mark signal and the stop board at the same point, but this is because this is not really a signal, it is a points indicator that should not turn red after you ran over it, because there is no track circuitry that can detect the train passing. It only shows red if the points are not aligned properly anywhere, and if they are aligned, they show you where they are aligned to. Let's go to Marlow. And accuracy is just a thing for enthusiasts. Well, I love that they made it. I think the dispatcher in the game is not far enough to actually make it mandatory for people running this line. But it is nice that we have some functionality in the token machines and this ground frame panel, so that we can role play a bit. Would be nicer if the points were actually connected to the ground frame panel. But I guess you have to give control to the in-game dispatcher, otherwise it won't work. Here is another locally controlled level crossing. Headlights. Did I forget the headlights? Oh yeah. Good point. I forgot the headlights. That subtracts us some Acura points. Also that I did not activate the DRA on the cab that I shut down. To the left here, there is actually a path that you can walk for quite a distance, even in the game. And one scenario starts where you are having your lunch break here, and then have to walk on the path back Bourne End. Worse than forgetting DRA is. Are we in? Yeah, we are still approaching a level crossing with a 10 limit. Shortly behind this whistle board. Here is this pedestrian level crossing. Now it's starting to rain. Look at this interesting sign. It does not have a red border. Probably because it is one of the signs that allow you to start going back to line speed after your tip has occupied the level crossing. At any rate, you don't get another sign that allows you to go faster again. Now we should actually be allowed to go faster again, yes. Now we can run the rest of the line to Marlow with 40. Now, and one of my suggestions actually is to have some receptacle here in the cab where you can place your staff or your token, so that people can see that you're actually in possession of that item that gives you the right to run this line. That you can pick it up and return it to the machine. Can't be so super difficult, because I remember the G6 shunter has this thing where you can place your hard hat on the stand. Pick it up when you go outside, only role playing here again. But why not connecting it? Now we're closing in. Have to slow down to 25 at some point. And then we're getting to Marlow. If you look at the gardens are very individually designed, not one garden looking like the other. Some even have Stonehenge style thingies in their gardens. Now I have to slow down so that I don't get stopped by the Moorgate protection TSW6. A bit off the topic, the Sir Digby. There's a Trains Infest on Steam. Yes, that's always nice. Grab the stuff that you have missed so far. Trains in World 6 is 80% off. Inspector, hey, nice to see you. You just made it for the arrival at Marlow. A bit late we are, but this is because of our tokens explanation. Coins and cards. Bold fast. Yes, so this is Marlow in the rain. Now we don't need to operate a token machine. A lot of people are queuing up here until they find their way around this little hut. Because now we have the staff in possession and we can just go back with the staff, because nobody can use the line while we have the staff. Because the staff is a unique item. Alright, Marlow. And this is time for the presentation. I have the game return to the timetable and start the presentation. So, first thing is recap a bit. Token systems with a staff, without a staff, one train working. We have talked about this in Blackpool branches. Spectre reminded us on my Discord. The thing that we looked at just right now when going from Bourne End to Marlow is a very classic working system. To make sure that on a line with stations on both ends, Station A and Station B, that we cannot control because one signaler is sitting here, the other signaler is sitting at B, and in the middle, nobody can see. Think back, we are in a time where we don't have CCTV, where we don't have satellites, where we don't have GPS. If we send out a train, we don't know anything about the train until the train arrives at the other station, and our signaler from B gives us a telegraph bell ring code that the train has arrived. So we can put up signals like a starter signal. I use the semaphore signal because it's such an antiquated technology, but you can see it's a red signal, and green and red and yellow is just like the color lights that we have. We have a starter signal here. We have a home signal here for trains coming in, and we have a distance signal warning if the home signal is at red, and so on the other side. When a train is waiting here, and the train is waiting here, we obviously have to make sure which train can run and which train has to wait so that they don't collide on the uni line in the middle, on the single line in the middle. And for that, people came up with a solution to have a unique item, a staff, that represents the authority to use this line between those two stations. So the signaler has the staff here on A. That means that the signaler on B cannot have the staff. Signaler hands the staff to the driver, and the driver puts the staff in his cab, and now he has the authority to run the line. The signaler can put the signal to go, and then the train runs the line with the staff. Then the staff is on the other side, and the signaler here can allow this train to go. This is quite helpful if there are more or less the same number of trains coming from one side and the other. If there are coming more trains from A to B, then it's a problem, because then the train at A has to wait for a train going from B to A to bring back the staff, or somebody has to carry the staff back to station A. So this does not really work superbly if you have an unbalanced number of trains running from left to right. Where it works great is like our situation from Bourne End to Marlow, where there is no through station on the other end, but there is a buffer block so that the line ends there. So if you give that train the staff, the train just returns and brings back the staff, and then the staff can be handed to the next train, or the train just keeps the staff and goes back all the time. Then this system, one train working, staff, works quite well. It means only one train can use this line, and the train is getting a staff to represent the authority. It's sometimes abbreviated in the sectional appendix OTS, and sometimes OT and in brackets S, because there's also, we will see it later on this sheet, a one train working without the staff. Just turn off the music so that it does not drive me crazy. So this situation here with a dead end line, only one station on the other end, one train working with staff OTS, is what we have here on the new DLC Bourne End to Marlow. The situation that on an unbalanced lines more trains are going from left to right is something that we have not seen simulated in Trains and World yet. That would be more or less a further development of the train staff system. If you have the situation with two through stations, one on the left and one on the right, I and B, same arrangement of starter and home signals with distance signals in between, one train waiting here, the second train waiting here, the third train waiting here, all want to go from A to B, and there is no train coming from B to A. The staff is at the signaler at A, so if the signaler at A gives the staff to the first train, he runs to B, leaves the staff with the signaler at B, and goes on its way, and then train 2 and 3 have to wait until there is a train coming back from B to A, and they cannot go even though the line is open. So what can the signaler at A do? He can show the staff to the driver of the first train and write him a ticket. And the driver knows I've seen the staff. That means the signaler at B does not have the staff, so the signaler at B cannot send any trains. So the line is secure insofar as there can be no train coming from the opposite direction. I have a ticket. This is my authority to use the line. And the signaler can show the staff then to the next one and give him a new ticket until the last train actually takes the staff over to B so that B can run trains back to A. That is the train staff and ticket system if you have the unbalanced numbers of trains going from one side to the other. Needs and involves a bit of planning. Has not been, I don't think that it is used anymore anywhere in Great Britain, but it is still in the abbreviations lists, and sometimes it is or it has been used and makes up for the problem that the staff can only go from left to right and from right to left. You know what I mean. To fill the matrix, one train working no staff, that is like one train working staff but without the staff actually. We have the same situation here, especially on a dead-end line. We're sending trains in, but only one train. Train can turn around here and come back. Doesn't have a staff, so how do we make sure that we don't send in a second train if the first train is still on the track here? We secure this with track circuits. 2 track circuits next to each other, and with 2 track circuits we can make sure whether a train is going to the right or going to the left. And if the train went to the right, then we know there is a train in our track, and then we cannot send a second train and the signal stays at red. So we can make sure there is only one train working and we don't have to give him actually a physical staff. That is what we have on the piece of track between Burscough Junction and Ormskirk in the Blackpool branches. That was the thing with the staff. One train working with staff, one train working without staff. Staff plus ticket system. In the Thames Valley lines from Bourne End to Marlow, we now have the staff, and for the first time we see a train staff in trains in Bourne. Token systems. Electric token block, ETB. How does that work? Makes up again for the problem that sometimes we have more trains running from A to B than from B to A. Same arrangement again, 2 stations left and right. Same arrangement of signals, starter signal, home signal, distance signal, and also for the opposite direction, starter signal, distance signal, home signal. 2 trains want to run. With the staff, we can do it, but then we have the problem that B has to wait for the staff, and if a second train is coming from A to B before there is a train from B to A, then there is delay. So we replace the staff with a token. And the token is not a unique item, but there is a set of tokens that are assigned to a certain piece of track for a section of track, like Maidenhead to Bourne End. And those tokens have more or less like a key, a special form, so that only those tokens fit into the machines associated with this section of track. It is a token, a key. And how do we make sure that only one token of the many that exist is out there giving authority to one driver. Because if there are more tokens, then this driver can have a token and this driver can have a token, and then they crash in the middle anyway. This is why we need those token instruments. And those token instruments are more or less machines with an electric lock that are connected by a telegraph line. And working with the resistance that those tokens represent for an electric current when all the tokens are in either machine. Those machines know if there is a token missing or if all the tokens are present. And if one token is missing actually, then an electric lock prevents a second token to be given out. If the token is returned to either of the machines, then the resistance meets the requirements, and then the electric lock actually opens if you press a plunger to release one of the tokens. So this makes sure that there is only one token out, but you can take out the token on either end. And this allows to send more trains from A to B than from B to A, up to a certain point. If all the tokens at point A actually are taken out and sent to B, then you either have to send trains back from B to A, or there is also a possibility that you can put all the tokens at B into a certain box where they are transported back to A. But that is a complicated thing. So if there is more or less the same number of trains going from left to right in a certain period, then this will even it out. Yeah, this is the idea with electric token block, and the driver or the guard has to typically go to the signaler in this electric token block and ask him for the token, and the signaler will take out the token and hand it to the driver or the guard, and then the guard on the train with the driver and the token, they can get a green light and can be sent on the line with that item that represents authority. We talked about that there is a pouch for this token typically, so that the signaler can hand it to the driver without the train having to stop. This is why they have this big handle, so that they can pick it up from the window. Just imagine steam engines leaning out over the railings of the footplate, picking it up, maybe even with a stick. And there is this window in the pouch that you can see that they actually got the correct token from the signaler without having to take it out of the pouch, and that the signaler did not put anything else or a wrong token into this pouch. There are reports of accidents that happened because the signalers did not get the correct token and they used the token from a different line, or that did all kind of nonsense. So the driver can see, does not need to take the token out of the pouch, can see that they have the correct token, and then hand it back to the signaler on the opposite end. This is the system where the signaler handles the machines or the token instruments and the tokens, and just gives the token in the pouch to the driver. And this we can see between Croston and Burscough Junction on the Blackpool branches. At least there is a person next to the track at the location that is called the token exchange, and it doesn't really give you anything, but you can role play again that he gives you that pouch with a token, and you return it on the opposite end at Burscough Junction to the signaler there. What do we have between Bourne End and Maidenhead? We have no signaler token, and no signaler token tells you that there is still a signaler. That is the funny thing about it, because in the no signaler token, there is still a signaler involved, but the signaler is not close by, but he is sitting wherever, where he can be telephoned, but he is not close to the token machine. So the token instrument is operated by the driver or the guard, depending on regulations, just like we did when we picked up our token from the machine at Maidenhead and returned it to the machine at Bourne End, and then what the driver of the 37 rail tour did when they picked up the token from the auxiliary instrument on platform 2 at Bourne End. So we are We, meaning the driver or the guard, the train crew, is operating the token instruments on their own, but not without informing the signaler. This is why we typically have a signaler telephone in this booth with the instrument, where we can ask the signaler if it is okay to take a token. And then the signaler checks if this meets with his requirements, and then it says, okay, pick up your token. This is how the signaler is involved in the no signaler token. Difference is between who actually operates the token instrument, signaler or train crew. And this is what we have between Maidenhead and Bourne End. But it is a bit more complicated because we have those both systems, Maidenhead, Bourne End with token system and Bourne End with Marlow staff system combined. Ideally, Maidenhead on one end, Bourne End more or less in the middle. In former time here the line went on to Wickham on the Chelton main line, but now it is no longer. So the trains have to turn around to get to Marlow. And you have platform 2 where the rail tour was sitting, and platform 1 where we arrived with our train because we were bound to go on to Marlow. And then there is Marlow with a dead end. The connection to the Great Western Railway here I did not put in because it is not interesting for our system here, because then Great Western Railway, Great Western Express line to Reading is obviously with typical track circuit block and not with our weird systems here. So what would you typically do? You would run trains that go from Maidenhead to Bourne End and back again. So they do this thing with first Platt and Cookham, and another train is operating Marlow between Bourne End, and this is why passengers have to switch trains at Bourne End. This is the easy thing. And for the Maidenhead Bourne End, you have the token instruments, one at Maidenhead and one, this is the one that I showed, the auxiliary instrument, and you can pick up your token there, take your train here, return it, ask a signaler, get a new token, get the train back. Or you take the train there, return the token, and then the signaler can send a second train that goes maybe then on this end. The thing, here's the token representing authority for this red line, and the token is returned here then, and the staff is representing authority for this blue line. And this is what it looks like, and the staff actually has a tag that tells you what it is representing authority for, Bourne End to Marlow. Just as the token here on its end tells you that it is from Maidenhead to Bourne End. Yeah, but we saw that in our little house with the ground frame, we had a third instrument that is actually the main instrument for Bourne End, not the auxiliary one. And what is the idea for that? The thing is, to get a train on the line between Marlow and Bourne End, if we don't want to store it at the platform or on the open track or build it there, we typically need to take our train from Maidenhead via Bourne End to Marlow. And how can we get from one line to the other without losing the protection of our token and our staff system? And that works just like we did it in our service that we played. At Maidenhead, our train picks up the token that gives him authority to run this line to Bourne End. At this part, we are getting sent to platform 1, what is the down platform, not for platform 2, what is typically for the train that would return to Maidenhead. Then our train is sitting here. Still has the token. Goes into the box with the ground frame panel. This is where the staff is locked into this machine with the ground frame. This is what it looks like. This is the ground frame machine where we can set the routes and where the staff is locked to this machine, and on the other end where we can insert the token. This is what we do. We show this machine that we have authority for the line between Maidenhead and Bourne End by inserting the token here on this right side. Then the machine knows, all right, the guy that is operating me has authority to use this line. Then we switch the routes in a way that this train can no longer go back to Maidenhead, but can go to Marlow only and lock these points in place. And now this train is locked off the line between Maidenhead and Bourne End and only can go to Marlow. Then we could just pick up the staff and do our happy journey between Marlow and Bourne End, but if we still keep the token, nobody else could run the line between Maidenhead and Bourne End. This is why we have to replace the token into the machine, where it gets locked and where we cannot get it out again without the signaler's permission. And without a token, we cannot switch back those points. So we are now locked into our line between Marlow and Bourne End. Then we pick up, and this allows another train to come from Maidenhead, pick up a token, and operate this line, while we are picking up the staff, turning around our train by switching the cabs, and now operate the line between Bourne End and Marlow. And now we have established what we have seen on the slide before, trains between Maidenhead and Bourne End using platform 2, and the tokens are running back and forth, and our train can run back and forth between Bourne End and Marlow by virtue of the staff. This is how this funny machine here is used to connect the staff system and the token system. Let's look at it a bit closer, and what can we see? It's not only interesting that it was built by RBB. We talked about RBB, this company that came into existence as a merger between ASEA in Sweden and Brown Boveri in Switzerland to make up for ASEA Brown Boveri, what was big in the 90s, built the first three-phase AC locomotives, and we talked a lot about this when we talked about the Trax family and about the history of the 145 locomotive. And here we find RBB again as a provider for this quite out-of-the-way instrument. Here we can see the arrangement at Bourne End Station. Here's the line coming in from Maidenhead. Here's the switch that decides whether you go up to platform 2, up platform, or go to down platform, platform 1, for trains that go on to Marlow. And those things here represent the token instruments, the auxiliary instrument. Here is the main instrument and the thing that is connecting with the staff. You can see where TPWS installations are built that lock in the trains and prevent them from running. This thing here is a train ready to start, a plunger that you should press before going back to Maidenhead or also to Marlow. That is not represented in the game, unfortunately. You can see the points indicators, not to be confused with signals, but this here is a distance signal, BE3R. And yeah, and here you can switch those points here for normal, going to Marlow, or reverse, going to Maidenhead. And if you look into the sectional appendix on page 575A, as written here, you can see what you have to do at those point indicators. Here you can, this is actually proof that those are not signals, BE1 and BE3, but those are point indicators, and they tell you what you need to do, typically call the signaler if the points are not aligned in the proper way. So how do we have our point indicators aligned here? Point indicators, it looks a bit like signals, but they are not signals, they are points indicators. The one that controls access to Bourne End is a points indicator that can show red. And then you have to stop, showing you that you cannot go into the station because the points here, those points, are not aligned properly. If you're sent to platform 2, it will show you U for up and D for down platform, always in connection with yellow. So this points indicator will never show you a green light. A points indicator only can show a red light, flashing or steady, no light, what always requires you to stop, or they can show a yellow light that allows you to pass the points and tell you whether they are aligned properly. Never green. And typically you should have a points indicator plate at the points indicator to be distinguished from a signal. This points indicator, when you approach it, actually is preceded by a distance signal that you can see recognized by the R thingy here that tells you that it's a distance signal that warns you. The signal is always yellow, even if the points indicator shows yellow, because you always have to be cautious that you are sent into the correct platform. And if this sign here gives you a different platform than you are supposed to go, then you have to stop and call the signaler. And Akura says, how is the switch 2B operated? Let's go back what the switch 2B was. 2B should probably operated by the signaler remotely. At least I did not find anything else. Because the token cannot really operate anything, the ground frame panel, I think, can only operate 2A, not 2B. So this switch here should be most probably, but I cannot give you that for sure, operated remotely by the signaler. Yeah, so this distance signal I was telling you is always showing yellow, even if this points indicator here tells you that there is a route set up properly, and does not change its color even if that signal shows a red, in the case that there is no alignment. The corresponding one for the train starting here from Bourne to Marlow can show B for branch line probably, and M for main or maybe Maidenhead. At any rate, again, no green light. Best you can get is a yellow caution and proceed, because it's a points indicator. For this points indicator, I found a picture in the internet that actually has the points indicator plate added. In the game, you don't find the points indicator. I don't know if that is a omission or whether it is actually in the time that they did not need to have the points indicator plates necessarily. So what we don't find in the game is this BE2 points indicator or signal, whatever it is, that you can find here. BE2, that is supposed to be somewhere on the Marlow branch line, and if you think it through, then it makes sense to have another signal or points indicator here, so that the train can be stopped if this points indicator, those points here are aligned in a way that you would have to cut them open if you run in here. So if those are aligned to Maidenhead, then we would need something to stop trains coming from Marlow going into platform 1 and allow them to pass if it is set correctly. But for this BE2, I cannot tell you something specific because it's not in those rules. And it is not in the game for whatever reason, but it is on our ground panel diagram. All right. And since those are not signals but only points indicators, we need something to stop the trains from leaving the platform without permission of the signaler, and this is what you have those stop boards for. And those stop boards say, just take the token with the signaler's permission, then you can leave. And here, take token or staff, depending in which direction you want to go. But since this is not a signal but a points indicator, we have this weird combination of a stop board that tells you to stay in place even if the points are set correctly, and this points indicator is showing a yellow light. You still have to grab the staff and ask the signaler in case you didn't do it before. This is my presentation for this part of the Thames Valley lines. how the system with the token and the staff works between Bourne End, Maidenhead and Marlow. I'm totally happy that they implemented something like this. As I said, it is mostly roleplay. If you don't want to use it, then it is up to you. You can just run the services without it. But if you want to use it, then you can actually see and feel and take the tokens. You cannot really switch by the ground frame, but you can pretend doing so. And then grab the staff and go to Marlow. If I got anything wrong, as always, please don't hesitate to tell me. Hey, I'm streaming. I'm coming back to you later. Bye-bye. So, sorry for this interruption. Again, if I missed something, if I got something wrong, if you know more about this, please let me know in the comments or anywhere else. I'm always happy to learn and more than you can get from the regulations and all the stuff. Super happy that it is implemented. Maybe at some point we can actually implement it in a way that the dispatcher in the game won't let you go until you operated it properly. Remaining thing to do is to run a service from Twyford to Henley on Thames, where we have all the regatta people. And let's run it in winter, because we want to see. Mach dich aus meiner Leitung. Yes. This is not even my phone, as people said. Yep. Because the snow textures actually are also reworked. Maybe use January. Oh no, I need something where I have snow. Only works in December. Light clouds, snow level. Let's make it high. Custom weathered. And run this service in the morning. Or maybe it's too early. I don't see anything. If it is too dark. Twyford to Henley on James. Only 14 minutes. With snow. Let's do it. I'll give the tokens a try. Says yes, do it. And you can award Acura points for it. As it being something that needs to be role-played, just like the DRA in some aspects. I turned off the sound for the game. Now it is back. Twyford. No, we don't forget the lights. Test button for the GSMR is the wrong one. That will be the test button, I think. This is calling the old man line control or whatever it is called. No, we don't need a token. No, we just have signals with track circuits and controlled remotely by a signal. Two drivers in the cab so one can rest during a long journey to the Spectre. Yeah, this is the guard. This is not a driver, I guess. It's the guard. Bold man line control. Do they have? The old man, not the bold man. I think this is someone from the London Underground called the highest line control guy, the old man.
The next station is Wargrave. This is a Great Western Railway service
Wargrave.
to Henley on Thames.
Well, the guard actually should sit in the rear cab, right? But I guess they cannot spawn people in the rear cab. Niedertalbahn vibes, yeah, a bit. One weird thing, I think, is what they did with the shadows. When trains are coming from the opposite direction, they sometimes look like they are floating on a cushion, like a hovercraft. This might be because the shadows work in a weird way now. Probably after too much optimization. But this is probably not specific to this route. This is a core thing. Or maybe my mini tweaks are working in a weird way. Niedertal or Island Light, Pierhead to Shanklin. Yeah, it definitely plays a bit in the same league. Yeah, all in all, I have to say this is a first day pick for me, this route, or would be, had I not gotten it already. It is not the full priced route, it's one of the cheaper routes because it is shortish. But it has quite a lot.
Please mind the gap between the train and the platform and take care when stepping down from the train.
Oh, Lex, what am I doing? There's a lot of unique new features, or a couple at least, and it's beautiful. So especially if you're into the more branch liney rural services and don't have the time for longer runs, and this is definitely your thing. This stopping point here is a bit weird though. Why are we stopping here in the middle of nowhere?
This is Wargrave. Do not try to board or leave the train when the doors are closing. This service to
There is no stop marker. There is no driver only operation thingy. There are no people. Why are we not going up here where the stop marker is and where this screen is so that we can see what happens? Why are we stopping there so that everybody has to walk to our train? This does not make too much sense in my opinion. But people are nice and are walking here This is why we closed the doors and they can walk back to where they were in the first place. No, well, obviously. Yeah, I would have waited for them to come to my train. In my opinion, it's an extension to the Grey Western railway content, not the full route, even as it is promoted as a 3-in-1 route. Yeah. I agree with that. It is an extension to the Grey Western Express. 3-in-1 route is much said, too much said actually. At some point somebody will implement the Liberty line for the London Overground. Maybe in a DLC with a different scope. Still haven't seen a rowing boat, unfortunately. But there is one. On my first run on the route, I saw one. And if you play the divide and conquer scenario that leads you through this token and stuff, you will see a rowing boat and hear a rowing boat, if I remember correctly.
We are now approaching Shiplake. Please mind the gap between
Shiplake.
and take care when stepping down from the train.
Ice rowing, I think I'll give that a pass. Well, I always liked rowing when I had the opportunity to do something like that. It's a really contemplative thing to do. Welcome to Tiger's chat room. There are hiccups in the connection, aren't there? It's always a bit suspicious if Twitch welcomes me to my own chat room. Now another weird stopping position, because here is the stop marker. And we still are supposed to go on a bit beyond the stop marker up to here.
This is Shiplake.
Also, yeah, I would have preferred for the train to stop behind or in front of the stop marker, or the station stop here. Scenery-wise, there is a lot to discover. Not only riding on the road that goes through the snow. You can find a pub at Marlow. You can find a lot of streets and paths that allow you to explore. Yeah, you can call it a spat, right? But if we whistle nicely, and a white light we have.
The next station.
And now we're approaching Henley already. Cancelling indicator again. Permanently fixed caution signal here. Announcing that we are approaching the end of the line.
We are now approaching Henley, where this train turns. Please take all your belongings with you. Please mind the gap between the train and the platform, and take care when stepping down from the train. On behalf of the on-train crew, thank you for travelling with Great Western Rail. We wish you a safe and pleasant onward journey.
Slowing down sometimes on rain and snow. It is a bit hard to slow down. Now we don't see the TSW6 grids or the Moorgate protection properly. Here we are. Henley. Where you can, if you want, really walk for quite some time across the parking lots and through the area and have a look at the scenery. Guys, what do you guys think about the Cardiff route? The driving experience should be quite similar to this, or be it with a bit more traffic going on. The Cardiff route, it is a nice route to drive, but I always have the impression that it stops me short when I just get into the flow, and I would like to go on, but I can't because it is over. Yes, it is really hard to get through this stream of people. I don't Riviera line took more of Acura's attention. Well, the Riviera line is an all-time great route. Alright, let's close it. And let's finish it up here. I hope you enjoyed my impression or my interpretation of this route on the day before the release and my discussions of the different token and staff systems that are implemented in the route. Again, it is mostly roleplay, but you can do a bit of roleplay with these things that are provided, and you can actually see and touch and use them. If you don't want to use the token system and the staff system, then you can just drive the train as you do it on every other route, and you won't be stopped. Guys, thank you for bearing with me in this stream, for discussing it, being active on the chat, and I hope you have the greatest of weeks, and yeah, check it out tomorrow when it is released. So Digby says, nice one, thank you. Vitmax, thank you for the stream. Have a nice evening. Spectre says, thanks for the stream. See you. Thank you, guys. See you. Bye-bye.